I had actually forgotten about To Snoop or Not to Snoop. This is the fifth book in the Two of a Kind book series. This is my guilty pleasure when I want to relive my childhood obsession with the Olsen twins. And To Snoop or Not to Snoop, like the majority of the first books in the series, was one of the TV episodes. And it took me a good third of the way into this, which admittedly is like 15 minutes of reading, to trigger my memory. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but actually I really like this one. It's very far-fetched, quite unbelievable, but it's also quite inspiring, and it has a very obvious message in it. So I won't spoil too much, but basically, to Snoop or Not to Snoop, the twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley Burke, have been given a telescope because they are studying the stars. And like any young girls, or like any young person, they snoop on their neighbours, and that has some pretty, I wouldn't say disastrous consequences in the first instance, but then something very bizarre happens and they witness something that they believe to be quite criminal, and they snoop and try and investigate it. And obviously this is a preteen book. It's not going to be all bloodshed and murders, but me being a fan of crime fiction, I just kind of liked that element of there being a potential mystery, even though it's very soft. It just made it that little bit more interesting for me as an adult reader, and it's something that I really enjoyed. The fact that it's all about snooping on your neighbours and not believing everything you see is a fairly obvious moral. Don't do it, because, well, no good will ever come from pointing a telescope at your neighbours. You're either going to see something embarrassing, you're going to see something that you think is something else, or maybe occasionally you might witness, a serious crime, in which case, brilliant, you can tell the police. This obviously isn't that serious, but the girls take it upon themselves to investigate it, and, the second half is like a little mystery, and it kind of goes back to the Adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley books, where they've got their detective hats on. It's good. This one, as I said, was an episode, and I had kind of forgotten it, and there are some things in this that happen that are just completely unrealistic, and they wouldn't happen and they wouldn't get away with it, but, you suspend disbelief, and I think it's perfectly fine. It's nice to see their next door neighbour, Mrs. Baker. She's a nice enough character. Often with these Olsen books, we get to see the same characters again and again, so having somebody else in it just mixes things up a little bit. As always, the fashion is brilliant. The twins look fabulous. In terms of the episode itself, I actually think I preferred the book. I feel like Kevin as a character was more engaging in the book. Not that he was badly written into the episode. I just feel like we got more out of him, Kevin being their father, of course, and of course we get Carrie as well. This is a pretty classic example of what you can expect from the Olsen books. If you've not read any of the Two of a Kind book series, I wouldn't recommend it for an adult reader unless you have that nostalgia element, because they're not engaging for an older mind. They're very superficial as well. But if you love the Olsens, if you grew up with the Olsens, or if you're a younger individual interested in reading one of these books, To Snoop or Not to Snoop has to be one of my favourites. It also inspired me to, look up astronomy, and that's not a thing, is it? Look up astronomy? You know what I mean? I've always wanted to get a telescope, but I haven't. But it does, it's kind of inspiring in that respect. It's a good book. I like it. Maybe not my all-time favourite, but it's a good companion to the episode. I enjoyed reading it. Nice little way to spend half an hour, 40 minutes just losing myself in my childhood again. Number 5 in the series is pretty fun.